What's going on, you beautiful people? Well, I hope you guys are having a nice summer day today. I am. It's been smoking hot down over here. So we have ourselves a Marco Rossi update, and this is from Russo, probably the most connected guy in the Minnesota Wild when it comes to news, information, rumors, basically the whole shebang. So, does he specifically mention the Vancouver Canucks? No, this is not specifically mentioning the Canucks, but I found it really interesting because this is a fresh update. And we have some real interesting new kind of notes on this whole Marco Rossi situation, which is going to definitely relate to Vancouver because we are looking for a second line center. We've been connected with Marco Rossi now in the past, basically from Rick Dhaliwal, from Drance to Shaw, like pretty much everybody has said the Canucks really are interested in him. But do they have enough to get him? We'll find out. So, first of all, right off the bat, we have to give some love to Daily Faceoff. This is from the DFO Rundown on their YouTube channel. You can watch the whole thing. It's about an hour long, give or take. It's around the 9-10 minute mark if you want to watch the whole clip itself. Definitely go check that out and show them some love. And, of course, I'm going to be using my good friend, Canucks News Summaries, who is going to be going over kind of the recap there. Saves us a lot of lovely, lovely moments here. All right. So before we get into the whole recap, there's some specific things about this I want to talk about. He mentioned that they are in total shutdown mode. They haven't had a conversation in 3 to 4 weeks. Now, this is something I haven't heard yet. So this is completely fresh. So with Rossi, this is a guy who deserves, or he believes he deserves to get a pretty long, significant contract. The original report was saying he was looking for around 7 years, $7 million, give or take. I do wonder if something around 6x6 would get it done. But apparently the Minnesota Wild have no interest in doing that. He was demoted in the playoffs. They're just not a big fan of Rossi, even though he had a decent amount of points. He was a dog out front of the net. And honestly, when they had injuries, he showed up real well. He mentions here, deserves significantly more than the Wild are offering, but Wild don't want to offer more than Matt Boldy's contract. By the way, a lot of people wanted Matt Boldy in that draft way back with the Canucks. Don't even want to get into the $6 million range. And that's wild to me. If they don't even want to get into that $6 million range for a guy who's so young, a guy who puts up a decent amount of points. Now, I'm going to say it, and I've said this before. I wasn't the biggest Marco Rossi guy originally. I did my research on him. I watched on some of his highlights. I checked out some of the analytics. I talked to some people I really respect. And my opinion of him significantly increased over this time. And I thought now, you know what? Maybe he would be a really good second-line center for the Vancouver Canucks. The Wild are concerned that he can't perform in the playoffs. A lot of teams have similar opinions based on that Panthers' success. Now, we all know the Florida Panthers were an absolute monster. They're a wagon. But they were so deep, and they were so deep everywhere. But on center position, they were unbelievably deep. And this is a team that a lot of people are trying to replicate that, but you can't replicate that type of depth, not to mention all the tax advantages and all that lovely stuff. Now, they're saying, well, because Rossi's, I guess, a smaller guy, but he plays like gritty up front of the net. He's always around that area. Like, he's not the most gritty guy. He's not a Sam Bennett or anything like that. He was also a smaller guy who's definitely more a dog type player. Kind of like Garland, too. Garland's like, actually, come to think of it, he kind of reminds me of a center version of Connor Garland, actually, if you really want to think about it in that sense. I would think that was actually a pretty decent comparison because Garland does get a lot of his points and goals out front of the net as well. So there's a full recap on it, on Rossi here. And again, there's some interesting things in here. He's concerned, for example, if he signs a bridge deal that he'll get demoted again and it'll affect his future earnings, which makes a lot of sense, especially if the guy goes out and has a really big season, but then they don't want to pay him. And now they're going to say, oh, you know what? We're not really interested in you. Moving now, going to the future, he doesn't get the minutes he's expecting, suddenly not making the money anymore. That's a problem for him, especially because I believe there's other teams that would give him the money and give him that opportunity. I think Vancouver would be that, but the question is, how are we going to get the guy? We need to save a little bit more cap space, right? and we're going to have to give up some assets, and they're not looking for futures. This is one of the biggest problems about everything, is they're not looking for futures here whatsoever. So I just don't know how we can figure this all out for the Vancouver Canucks. I really hope we can. I just don't know how we're going to make this kind of mesh. But what do you guys think about the whole Marco Rossi update? What do you guys think? Should the Canucks even still go after him? I'd love to know below. Drop a like if you sub, if you guys are new, or if you're an OG, hit the notification. You know, I love doing this, and I'll do this as long as you guys want me to do it, all right? Take care, guys. Love my hockey. Summertime. Enjoy the weather. Adios. Peace.